of our series all about alters. This video is going to be about system roles and the roles that alters have. So, okay, we have alters, but what do they do? Why do we need alters? How do they function within a system? A system is a group of alters inside one body. After the trauma has ended, why do systems continue to switch between alters? Why don't they just go away? Switching between alternate identities is one strategy that people with DID use to block out an ongoing awareness of unwanted information. Dissociative responses in general may help to also regulate information and responses to potentially frightening information. Right. So, once an alter is made, it doesn't just disappear. That is a part of your mind. We'll go on to things such as healing and integration and working together cohesively as a system in other videos about the outcomes of DID and possible treatments and things like that. That's not what this video is about. All you need to know is that essentially, generally speaking, alters are here to stay and they all have a purpose. But what different levels are those purposes at? What are the roles that system members need to undertake in order to have a well-functioning body and a well-functioning life? Some roles include protectors, prosecutors, introjects, internal self-helpers, littles and child parts, EPs, which is emotional parts, ANP'S, which is apparently normal parts, and non-human alters. Let's start with the simplest stuff. Two big groupings that almost all alters can fall into are either ANP'S, apparently normal parts, or EPs, emotional parts. Apparently normal parts are either alters who contain no trauma, who don't remember any abuse or trauma happening to them, and can function well. These are usually the hosts, which are the people who are in the front most of the time, the people who control the body most and generally go about daily life without being burdened by the knowledge of what's happened to them. I am an ANP. I'm the host, Chloe, I'm 21, hi. ANP'S are usually, not always, but usually unconnected to the emotional trauma of past events and are also usually amnesic for those past events. There can be more than one ANP who is fronting at any one time. There can be more than one ANP in a system. There can even be more than one host in a system. It all depends on what works for you. Some systems are what's called polyfragmented, which means that they have there's two different ways to go about this. I'm not sure which one's correct because every time I check it seems to change, but polyfragmentation, as I understand it, and please correct me if I'm wrong as a non-expert, polyfragmentation is when you have either over 100 alters or different subsets of alters. So for example, your alter may have alters, which then could also have alters of their own. You see what I mean? So that's apparently normal parts, but what are emotional parts? Please don't misunderstand. This doesn't mean that apparently normal parts don't have emotions or aren't emotional. That's not it at all. It just means that they don't have any memory of the trauma and are generally able to function and are amnesic to certain events that happened in the past. Other than that, normal humans have emotions, everything's fine. Emotional parts hold the memories of trauma. Sometimes they can be stuck in that sensory experience and even unaware of the passage of time taking place around them. Some alters are stuck in a certain experience or a certain year, a certain month, even just a certain day. For example, before we have mentioned our alter called Omega, who as of now is completely stuck in trauma space, reliving what happened a few years ago and is not really aware of the rest of the world or that time has passed and that we're no longer there and that the danger isn't there and that everything's okay. So Omega is an emotional part. An EP. Tasks that need to be managed for daily life are undertaken usually by ANP'S. Not always, but most of the time. So for example, cooking and cleaning, working, studying, all of that is generally undertaken by ANP'S. But again, this name can be misleading, just like apparently normal parts can still be emotional and have emotions. Some emotional parts aren't emotional. Some don't feel pain, some don't feel emotion very much at all. And that's all to do with what trauma was experienced and what was needed in order for that child to survive that alter had to take on. So let's start off with protectors. Sally and Kyle are two of my protectors. You've met Kyle. I don't really know how he comes across, but he's one of my protectors and he looks after me and, well, all of us in the system. Protectors often have defensive mechanisms and a need to protect the system and to protect the body, even though some of them may have a liability to self-harm or have eating disorders or anything like that, but they're generally intense about protecting the body. Sometimes this isn't a good thing and sometimes it is. It can be protecting from danger, physical danger, emotional danger, looking after the body, anything around that sort of realm. And that's not all that they boil down to. Please don't think that because I'm putting alters in categories that that's all they are. Just like saying, for example, I'm a student, that's all I am and that I'm nothing more. No student is the same in the same way, no protector is the same, and that's not all they are. They are more than that, they are beyond that. They have their own beliefs and their own opinions, their own favourite foods, their own colours, their own physical experiences that are different to my physical experiences because the body can physically change. The mind can alter, and if you want to know more about that you can see our part 1 video. So please don't think that I'm just putting people and alters in boxes and shrinking them down into this one-dimensional category, because that's not it at all. Protector alters can try and manage emotions such as rage and anger in order to keep the system in check. They try to help people in the system understand what may be best for the body and the system. A caretaker, that's a different kind of thing. There are protectors and there are inner self-helpers and caretakers. So Kyle is a protector and Sally is also a protector, but she's also... Thanks, Laurie. Bye. Hi. She's also an internal self-helper and a carer. She looks after all our littles and she helps to take care of the body really well, especially if the body has come to harm or one of our alters is thinking of harming the body. She will come and protect us and care for us. She's reassuring and she's maternal and caring and warm, that kind of support that's needed in the system. And she takes care of all the littles and all the rest of us, but that's her main role, that's her main thing that she does is care, and that's a massive protector trait. Some protectors can go overboard on what they see as perceived threats, which may not actually be a threat. For example, they may see danger everywhere because their job is to look out for the system. So even if the system is trying to get help, for example, from a friend or by seeing a therapist, they may be the alter who says, no, we don't need your help. We need to take care of ourselves, which may not always be the best thing to do. Again, they're human and make mistakes and rely on their own judgments, and sometimes that is the correct judgment. Sometimes it's not, but their aim and goal generally is to put the system first and to ensure the protection of the system, hence the name protectors. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, there are persecutors. Now, persecutors can be redeemed. They're not always bad, and that's something that can really harm your system. If you have a persecutor and you refer to him as, or her, sorry, if you refer to them, may not even have a gender. If you refer to them as the evil alter or the crazy alter, the mean alter, the bad alter, that almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Nobody wants to be told that they're bad, that they're evil, that they're wrong. What's that going to do if you hear that and you know that's what people think? Are you going to want to embrace them and help them and be their friend and be nice to them? No. You're going to think, wow, what a bum head. I want nothing to do with you. You're mean to me, you know? Acceptance can be difficult, but it is an important step. You need to understand that all persecutors have a reason for their actions. They may have a slightly warped sense of reality due to what they've been through or what they understand, but there is every chance that a persecutor, once they've worked through everything that needs to be worked through and seen life how it is now and not how it was when the abuse was happening as a child, that they often become very, very effective and powerful protectors. That's because even though persecutors often act in harmful ways, for example, hurting the body or being aggressive or copying the actions of abusers on the body or within the system, they have a protective logic behind them, and that's why and that's why they make such good protectors. For example, persecutors may feel the need to punish someone in the system if they tell about the abuse. They may harm the body because that's what they've been taught to do. They might harm the body if somebody talks about the abuse because they know that there's a chance, especially if, depending on the type of abuse, you still have connection to your abusers, and even if not, there's a chance that you'll be punished for speaking out about it. Sometimes it can even be fatal in some situations, and a persecutor's defensive response is, no, you can't do that, this needs to be punished, this is dangerous, we need to protect ourselves. So they may have a distorted view of reality, a distorted view of what's really helpful, because that's what they've been taught. They were never shown kindness or respect or love, only punishments and pain, and that's what they've learned from it is, if you do this, bad things will happen to me, bad things will happen to us. How can I get them to stop doing that? Hurt them, because that's what worked on them as a child. If you were hurt, you're not going to do it again, are you? You're not going to want to carry on doing what you were doing. Don't forget that they think that they're doing the right thing. There's kindness in everybody, I hope. And they can be redeemed. Just because you struggle with your own pain and what you should be doing to help yourself and help keep the system safe, your way of dealing with your trauma does not make you a bad person. Your way of working through your experiences does not make you wrong or evil or anything like that. It makes you human, and it's okay to explore your way through life and through the present until you figure out that maybe those actions aren't needed anymore. Maybe they don't work for you anymore, and that's absolutely fine. Now, introjects can be very difficult. Introjects are almost exact copies of an abuser, almost copied exactly from the reality as it was into the system. They believe that they are that person, and obviously that can be very difficult because even if you physically escape the situation, you now have an abuser living inside your head, someone who can hurt you, can hurt your body, can destroy your relationships, and hurt your alters inside or outside. They may have the characteristics of that abuser. So for example, if the abuser came from a father, they're possibly very patriarchal and maybe toxic masculinity, and becomes a paternal introject with the opinions and views of the abusing father. So what does introject mean? Introject is a term that is used in psychology. It refers to taking on or absorbing the views of others without reviewing them first, and that's essentially what's happened. So for example, somebody who was verbally abused as a child may repeat that abuse through their introject. For example, if they were told that they were unlovable or something like that, the alter may repeat things like "nobody likes you," and obviously that would damage friendships and cause anxiety and things like that. But again, like prosecutors, these can be changed with psychotherapy, but it takes a lot of work as far as I know. gatekeeper alters have the job of either keeping trauma safe, keeping a part of the system safe or hidden, and keeping traumatized alters from appearing or reappearing. They may also hold back memories and trauma that isn't ready to be dealt with yet, or maybe they're not allowed to reveal it yet. I refer to these as locked alters. They hide a wealth of information about the past and about other alters, and possibly even alters themselves, experiences themselves, memories. There can also be fragments, and fragments are very different from alters because they can differ in their roles in terms of their roles are extremely small. They may literally have been created to deal with one thing, for example, cooking. And that's what that alter does. Specifically, just cooks. Obviously, there's more to them than that. They're not just a shell, an empty thing that cooks. They have opinions and stuff like that, but they're less fully formed than an alter would be. They have a very limited role and perhaps very limited emotions or opinions on things. These are very common in people who have poly. Can't remember the word, I mentioned it earlier. Fridge. Polyfragmentation. Very common in people who are polyfragmented. Goodness. Another really common type of alter are generally referred to as litters. Litters. Really? What is wrong with me today? Littles, often known as littles, and these are child alters. Littles are often referred to as that because they are little, they are child alters. Now, some littles do contain trauma memories, they can be emotional parts and are very, very frightened, very, very afraid. They can also be full of sunshine just like any other child with no trauma memories at all, just want to bring happiness to the world. I only have 30 seconds of filming time left on my camera, so I'm going to have to say a very quick goodbye. We have another part coming soon to this series, so please stay tuned. Don't forget to leave comments for us, and we'll see you soon. Bye! I am doing a struggle. Send assistance, please.